There's 200, there's another 200. Since you've been going down here, I've given you a minimum of $20,000.
I don't believe that, but that's okay.
The funding that I've given you wasn't maybe that big of a deal, but I think that it's going to be a very big deal without it.
200. Another 200. Scroll again. Add it up, and the number lands at $20,000. And in one breath, Michelle makes it clear the bank is closed. No more transfers. No more safety net. So now the question hits harder than the total. Is this love or is this lifestyle with a romantic filter? I'm Sabrina, and you're watching TLC Drama Live. And if you follow 90 Day Fiancé drama the way I do, you already know money changes the tone of every relationship. Subscribe and tell me in the comments. If your partner moved abroad with no job and relied on you, would you fund the dream or force them to stand on their own? Because what happened between Chloe, Johnny, and Michelle is not only about Aruba. It is about independence, pride, and who pays when passion meets reality. Michelle did not yell. She did not throw a scene. She pulled out receipts. 200 here, 200 there. Flights, expenses, support stacking quietly in the background while Chloe framed this move as bold and romantic. $20,000 is not pocket change. It is tuition money. It is a down payment. It is a cushion most adults would guard carefully. And in that moment when Michelle says the funding stops, something shifts. The energy changes from indulgent parent to boundary-setting adult. Now pause. Ask yourself, if Chloe loses that financial support, does the love story survive the pressure? She moved to Aruba with no job lined up, no income source, renting a car without a long-term plan, saying she will figure it out. That works when someone else is wiring money. It feels different when the transfers freeze, because once the money stops, the fantasy faces a deadline. Here's the first open loop. Can Chloe stand on her own 2 feet in a country where even cars cost 3 times what they do in the United States? The second, is Michelle protecting her daughter from making a mistake or controlling her through financial leverage? And the third, the one nobody says out loud, is Johnny ready to lead, or was he comfortable letting Michelle quietly fund the island dream? Notice something subtle. Chloe insists she is not spoiled. She insists she is not dependent. Yet the second the numbers appear, she pushes back, questions the total, reframes gifts as Christmas presents. That reaction tells you this is not only about math, it is about identity. Nobody likes seeing themselves labeled as dependent, especially on national television. And from Michelle's side, the timing matters. She does not cut Chloe off before the move. She does not stop her at the airport. She waits until she sees the house. The condition. The lifestyle shift from Massachusetts comfort to a smaller island home with different standards. So what changed? Was it the living situation that triggered the cutoff, or was it Chloe's attitude when challenged? This is where power quietly changes hands, because financial support is silent authority. The person who funds has influence. When that influence is withdrawn, the real strength of the relationship gets tested. If Chloe truly believes in this new life with Johnny, she now has to prove it without a financial cushion. If Michelle truly believes in tough love, she has to stick to her word even if her daughter struggles. But here is what makes this more interesting. Before the receipts, before the argument, there was an airport reunion filled with hugs and polite smiles. That is where the illusion still looked intact. That is where the performance began. And if you look closely, that is also where the first crack showed. 7 days. That is all they were apart. 1 week, and the reunion at the airport feels oversized, almost ceremonial, like everyone knows more is being evaluated than affection. Chloe runs in first. The hug is warm, familiar, safe. Then Johnny leans in, slightly cautious, slightly unsure, and something small but telling happens. Michelle pulls him in closer instead of letting the hug fade. On the surface, it looks welcoming. Underneath, it feels like positioning. Because hugs are not only emotional, they are social signals. Who initiates? Who holds longer? Who steps back first? Michelle does not step back first. You can sense Johnny wants approval. He smiles, polite, eager, a man who knows he is being assessed. Chloe looks relieved, almost proud, like she wants this moment to prove her decision was right. And Michelle? Calm, observing, pleasant, but alert. This is not only a reunion, it is a review. Massachusetts comfort is miles away from Aruba simplicity. Back home, Chloe had structure, family money, predictability. Here, she has heat, modest space, island pricing, and a boyfriend who is trying to show he is capable. The gap between those two lifestyles is not subtle. It is wide. And Michelle has lived both. She has stayed in luxury hotels when visiting Aruba before. This time, she is not checking into a resort. She is walking into her daughter's reality. Emotionally, who holds power in that moment? On paper, Chloe is an adult who made her choice. In practice, Michelle funds part of the experiment. Financial power shapes emotional power. Even if nobody says it directly, everyone feels it. And when power shifts silently, tension follows quietly. Look at Chloe's body language. She wants this to go smoothly. She wants validation. There is a hint of performance in her tone, like she is already rehearsing defenses before criticism lands. That anticipation alone says something. If you are fully confident in your new life, you do not brace before feedback arrives. Johnny stands in the middle. Not aggressive, not defensive, just trying to be enough. He wants Michelle to see him as responsible, capable, reliable. But the dynamic is tricky. When a parent visits a child's new life, especially in another country, the child often reverts slightly. Old patterns surface. Approval matters again. Psychologically, parental attachment does not disappear when someone turns 18. Independence is a process. Chloe says she is independent. Michelle questions whether she is prepared. Both statements can feel true at the same time. The expectation in Chloe's mind is simple. Mom arrives, mom sees growth, mom relaxes. The reality is more complicated. Michelle is not there for a vacation vibe. She is there to observe the conditions, living space, daily routine, stability. The airport smiles are polite, but the checklist has already begun. And the difference between a comfortable American suburb and a modest island house is not only about square footage, it is about perceived security. Michelle's definition of security includes financial planning and long-term stability. Chloe's definition right now seems tied to love and experience. Those definitions are about to collide, because once they leave the airport and drive toward Johnny's home, the smiles become quieter. The small talk fades. The evaluation moves from emotional to practical. And what waits behind that front door is not only a house. It is a silent test that nobody announces out loud. As the front door clicks shut behind them, the real test begins. The kitchen comes first, and it is immediately obvious this is not a Massachusetts gourmet setup. The counters are smaller, the appliances older, and there are small annoyances. A few flies trapped near the window. The stove shows its age, but it's functional. Johnny's pride is visible in the way he gestures toward each corner, explaining where everything goes, how he keeps it clean, how he makes it work. Chloe smiles nervously, trying to anticipate her mother's reaction, but the tension is thick because Michelle isn't nodding at the usual cues. She scans, methodical, taking in every detail without overt commentary, and there is no laughter here. Only measurement. Her eyes flick to Chloe, then to Johnny, reading more than the room itself. Upstairs, the bedrooms are compact, small enough that the shift from suburban space to island modesty hits Chloe immediately. She tries to laugh it off, but her gestures are clipped. This is where adaptation meets pride. She has chosen this life, she has moved halfway across the world for love, yet every limitation feels sharper when your comfort zone is so familiar. Johnny explains the layout, the storage options, the practicality of the space, but Chloe's mother remains quiet. Observation alone communicates judgment more sharply than any words. And then there is the shower. The water comes out at a precise 89 degrees, and Chloe's mother reacts instinctively, almost recoiling. It's not that the water is scalding or painfully cold, it is simply different from what she has known. Chloe steps in, tries to reassure her, explaining the way the pipes heat in the sun during the day, how everyone on the island adjusts naturally, how she has already gotten used to it. But Michelle's lips tighten. She is not mocking, she is processing, comparing, evaluating. Comfort and expectation collide here, and the gap is stark. Is discomfort growth or denial? Chloe insists it is adaptation, but the question lingers in the air. It isn't just the physical environment that is under review. Michelle watches how Chloe reacts, how she communicates, how she defends her choices. Every explanation is a moment of evidence, a performance perhaps, a defense, a claim of competence. And that is where the tension sharpens, because if this is genuine adjustment, it is impressive. If it is performance, it could crumble at the first real challenge. Michelle's judgment is not casual. It is rooted in years of knowing her daughter's patterns, understanding what is sustainable, and observing where enthusiasm masks fragility. Island norms come into play. Life on Aruba demands flexibility. A small kitchen does not equate to failure. A fly or two does not equal incompetence. An 89-degree shower is ordinary here. Johnny has adapted. Chloe has adapted. Michelle has to reconcile the norms she expects with the norms that exist, and in doing so, she pauses more than once, clearly marking approval or disapproval in subtle ways. Her posture stiffens in the kitchen, her brows knit at the bedroom, a quiet shake of her head at the shower. The first signals of disapproval are unmistakable, and Chloe feels them. It is a careful, measured disapproval, not harsh words, but it lands just as powerfully. In these early minutes of inspection, every detail matters. The house is not luxurious. It is lived in. It is a test of priorities. And in that quiet scrutiny, one question begins to dominate. Is Chloe truly adjusting, or is she performing competence for her mother's eyes? Michelle's first clear disapproval answers part of that, but leaves the rest hanging, and the tension builds toward what she will assess next. At first glance, Chloe's life on the island feels exciting, like a honeymoon stretched out over weeks instead of days. The sun, the ocean, the new apartment, all of it carries the thrill of novelty. But Michelle, with years of watching Chloe grow up and seeing patterns repeat, isn't fooled. She predicts quickly that the sparkle will fade. The dishes will pile up, the flies will be less charming, the shower at 89 degrees will no longer feel like a badge of independence. Michelle's prediction is simple but sharp. Novelty wears off fast, and what is left is sustainability, structure, and accountability. Honeymoon phase psychology is at work here. Chloe arrived in Aruba riding a wave of romantic energy, buoyed by love for Johnny and the thrill of adventure. Early on, challenges feel smaller, discomfort feels temporary, and support from a partner or parent softens every difficulty. But that honeymoon bubble is fragile. When routine hits, when reality costs more than expected, and when financial support disappears, attitudes change. Enthusiasm alone is not enough to maintain a stable life, and that is precisely what Michelle is calculating. Chloe's income plan, or the lack of it, creates tension that is impossible to ignore. She moved without a job lined up. Without a source of income, she relies on hope, love, and previously gifted funds. On its own, that is not negligence, it is a risk. But when Michelle steps in and sets clear boundaries, that risk becomes a measure of readiness. Chloe can speak convincingly about adaptation, about learning to cook, about handling a new life, but the reality is that without consistent financial independence, sustainability is uncertain. The novelty can hide uncertainty for only so long. Johnny is caught directly in the middle, trying to balance pride, responsibility, and empathy. He wants to protect Chloe, support her, and show Michelle that he is capable of leading this life. He explains practicality, gestures at solutions, and reassures Chloe. But he also feels the pressure of the evaluation he cannot entirely control. Every critique Michelle gives, whether subtle or direct, lands on him as well. He is trying to be enough. Not just for Chloe, but under her mother's scrutiny. That tension defines the dynamics of the household. Love is present, yes, but it is intertwined with responsibility, judgment, and the reality of survival in a foreign setting. The difference between the honeymoon glow and daily life begins to become obvious in small moments. The limited storage in the bedroom, the quirks in the kitchen, the financial calculations Chloe avoids or delays. Michelle's subtle comments hint at a larger lesson. She is less interested in discomfort itself than in how Chloe responds to it. Will she find solutions, adjust, and adapt, or will she cling to expectations and nostalgia for what she left behind? And those lessons will not stop at the home. As they step outside the door, the next test looms ahead. Chloe insists she needs a car, a practical step in her new island life, but the reality of prices in Aruba, often 3 times what she expects, will confront both enthusiasm and hope with real-world limits. This is the moment where adaptation meets the first concrete financial challenge, and the honeymoon begins to meet reality in full force. Arriving at the car dealership, the first thing that hits Chloe is the price tags. Numbers on paper that seem to mock the United States experience, 3 times higher than she expected, 3 times what she thinks is reasonable. She shifts nervously, glancing at Johnny, then at her mother. Her plan had been simple in her head. Pick a car, make it feel like a practical step toward independence. But practicality in Aruba comes with its own currency, its own rules, and suddenly, hope bumps into reality. Chloe had waited for her mother to arrive before even entering the dealership, a choice that speaks volumes. She frames it as wanting support, wanting input, but the subtext is financial. She is used to a world where money is not a barrier, where a parent can step in to smooth the edges. Here, The pattern repeats itself. Michelle has already sent $20,000 over a short period. Chloe has lived off that generosity. Even when she protests, claiming she is independent, the behavior suggests reliance. Waiting for Michelle before making a purchase highlights dependency not as a flaw, but as a habit, a learned expectation reinforced over time. Johnny tries to bridge the gap, pointing out options, weighing pros and cons. He is negotiating, calculating, showing effort to solve the problem with logic rather than emotion. But his suggestions run against not only Chloe's expectations, but also the reality of the island market. Cars in Aruba are not the same as in Massachusetts. Supply is limited, prices are inflated, and the vehicles that are available often carry extra costs for import, taxes, and maintenance. Johnny's calm realism clashes against Chloe's sense of entitlement, but both are caught in the tension of expectation versus reality. Michelle, meanwhile, watches closely. She is not antagonistic, but her expression communicates awareness. She sees the pattern, Chloe seeking options when a parent is present, relying on support to make risk feel safe. Michelle knows she could ease the moment with a few payments, but the lesson is larger than convenience. She wants Chloe to encounter consequences, to confront real-world pricing and make a decision grounded in reality. It is not punishment, it is education under pressure. Chloe's frustration grows with each car she examines. The ones she can afford are old or unreliable. The ones she wants are priced beyond what she can manage, without funds she no longer expects to receive. Emotion rises quickly, and she begins to spiral. Words come faster than thought. "This isn't going to work," she mutters, almost to herself, then, louder, to Johnny and Michelle. She debates renting again, questioning how she will survive without outside help. The tension is visible, a mix of panic, anger, and disbelief. The dealership becomes a mirror for the larger challenge Chloe faces, her fantasy colliding with financial reality. She came seeking independence and adventure, but independence requires income, budgeting, and sometimes uncomfortable compromise. What she expected to be a practical, empowering step, the purchase of a car, has become a crucible for testing adaptation, maturity, and problem-solving under pressure. The spiral she experiences outside the dealership is not only about cars, it is about confronting a world where love does not automatically fund lifestyle, where choices have immediate consequences, and where reliance on others is no longer a guarantee. The tension is raw, visible, and unfiltered, setting the stage for the next confrontation where lessons in responsibility and self-sufficiency cannot be postponed any longer. Chloe never saw it coming. What she thought was a casual conversation about money suddenly transformed into a full accounting session. Michelle pulls out her phone and begins listing transfers. Methodically, almost clinically. 200 here, 200 there, another 200, and slowly the numbers stack up. Scroll, scroll, tap, scroll again. And the total lands at $20,000. $20,000 Chloe had spent, relied upon, or casually brushed off as background support while she chased her island fantasy. The room shifts, energy changes. What was tension before becomes electric. Chloe's eyes widen. Denial flickers across her face. She pauses, tries to rationalize, disputes small details. That transfer was a Christmas gift. That one doesn't count, she insists. She speaks quickly, stacking arguments to match the numbers, but the truth is undeniable. Michelle has receipt, fact, numbers that are concrete. There is no room to argue with the ledger. What Chloe experiences in that moment is not just shock, it is the psychological collision of entitlement meeting accountability. Here is the tension at the core. Chloe has framed her move as independent, adventurous, adult. Yet, the facts of these transfers show a pattern of reliance, a reliance she either ignored or minimized. Michelle's generosity, given repeatedly, created a cushion that allowed Chloe to pursue romance and relocation without immediate consequence. But repeated support can become enabling if not balanced with boundaries. The ethical question here is subtle but important. When does parental help stop fostering growth and start enabling dependence? And more broadly, how do adults navigate the fine line between gratitude and expectation when it comes to family support? The emotional stakes spike as Chloe's defenses rise. She feels attacked, yet the critique is embedded in arithmetic, in proof rather than opinion. "You just don't believe in me," she says, attempting to shift the conversation from finances to trust. Michelle remains calm but firm, listening, allowing Chloe to reveal the depth of her expectation and the reality of her entitlement. It is a high-stakes exchange where personal pride, love, and responsibility collide. Johnny watches from the side, caught between the two worlds. He understands Chloe's frustration, but also sees the necessity of boundaries. He sees how easily patterns of dependence can be reinforced when someone continues to fund dreams without accountability. Every transfer Michelle lists is a lesson in consequences, even if Chloe resists hearing it. And then comes the line that changes the game. Michelle, after scrolling through totals, after letting Chloe flail in denial, says it clearly, without apology, without theatrics. The funding stops. $20,000 is not coming again. No more transfers, no more cushion, no more excuses. The room holds a beat. Everything changes. Chloe's life, previously supported silently by her mother's generosity, is now fully in her hands. Emotional intensity peaks. Shock, frustration, panic, and the first real taste of independence wash over her simultaneously. This moment is more than numbers. It is a turning point. The fantasy of funded love is gone. The island dream must now meet real-world rules, expectations, and consequences. The question hangs in the air. Will Chloe rise to the challenge or retreat back into dependence? For the first time, the reality of adult responsibility is unmistakable, and the narrative tension is as high as it has ever been. The room crackles with tension, and the energy spikes. Chloe is reeling, but so is everyone watching. Because this is the moment where parental love and hard reality collide. Michelle's tone sharpens. There is no sugarcoating, no softening of consequences. She is laying down rules, and every word lands like a stone. Suddenly, the audience has to ask themselves the same question Chloe and Johnny are living. Is this tough love, or is it control? Let's be honest. On one hand, Michelle could be seen as manipulative. She times her lessons, she holds back resources, she evaluates every move with a critical eye. Her gestures are deliberate, her judgments precise. It could feel like a parent orchestrating behavior to maintain dominance. But flip the perspective. Chloe moved halfway across the world with no job, no income, and an expectation that her previous lifestyle could be mirrored in a foreign country. What would you do if your adult child did the same? If you loved them, but knew the risks? Michelle's actions start to look less like manipulation and more like responsibility. This is where assumptions collide with reality. Fans watching might instinctively sympathize with Chloe, the young adult chasing love in paradise. They see frustration, panic, the discomfort of leaving behind familiar comfort. But then, reality bites. Financial dependence is still dependence. Romantic enthusiasm cannot pay rent. And love does not replace planning. Michelle's decision to cut funding is not cruelty. It is a challenge. It is a wake-up call. And that's what makes this scene sharp and addictive. It forces viewers to question instinctive judgments about right and wrong. Johnny is right in the middle. He tries to act as buffer, mediator, and leader simultaneously. But is anyone really convinced he has the tools to navigate this triangle? He wants to protect Chloe, to negotiate, to smooth over the tension. But the challenge he faces is monumental. Can he assert leadership without undermining Chloe? Can he support her without enabling dependence? Watching him struggle makes the audience confront the larger question. Is he truly ready to guide this new life? Or is he as unprepared as Chloe for the consequences of independence? This is the moment for reflection. Ask yourself, if a loved one moved abroad, chasing passion without a financial plan, would you step in? Would you cut off support, push boundaries, or let them learn the hard way? Would your decision be love, control, or both? That is the tension Michelle is living and Chloe is facing, and the energy in the room reflects that uncertainty. The dialogue, the glances, the measured pauses all create a sharp delivery that keeps attention. Every sentence challenges the instinct to take sides, every reaction deepens the stakes. And just as the audience begins to settle, just as they think they know who is right or wrong, the camera, or in our narration, the story, turns to the next test. Johnny's leadership is being questioned silently. The balance of power teeters, and the unresolved tension hints at a coming confrontation that will push everyone to their limits. The question hangs, can Johnny rise to the occasion, or will Chloe's dependence and Michelle's boundaries create a rift that even love cannot bridge? Viewers are left with that discomfort, that suspense, and the desire to see how it will unfold. Johnny feels the weight of it immediately. The kind of pressure that isn't just numbers on a page or chores around a house, but a quiet, gnawing tension that sits heavy on the chest. He wants desperately to prove himself, not just to Michelle, but to Chloe, and more importantly, to himself. Every glance from her mother, every subtle nod or shake of the head feels like a test of competence. It's the sort of pressure that can either sharpen a person or break them. And in Johnny's case, he is determined to sharpen. Pride fuels him, yes, but it isn't arrogance. It's a mixture of hope, responsibility, and the instinct to protect the life he is building with Chloe. Financial capability is at the forefront of his mind. He knows the numbers. He feels them. The cost of a car, the maintenance of a home, the small luxuries Chloe is used to, all of it is magnified on the island. 3 times the US pricing feels like a personal challenge, a puzzle he has to solve without undermining his pride. Asking for help, for Michelle to step in, is no longer an option, and that cuts deeper than he expected. Pride and practicality collide. He wants to shield Chloe from stress, but he can't, because the reality is unavoidable. Every decision carries weight, and every misstep has emotional cost. The cultural contrast between Massachusetts and Aruba only makes it more complicated. In the US, luxury and convenience were assumed. Spacious apartments, modern kitchens, and predictable bills were the baseline. Here, life is stripped down, simplified, and for those who have never adapted, almost punishing. Johnny has adjusted. He knows the rhythms of island life, the quirks of infrastructure, the practical solutions for small inconveniences. But translating that comfort for Chloe, who is still learning, and for Michelle, who compares everything to her standards, requires diplomacy, patience, and constant vigilance. The pressure to meet 2 different sets of expectations, love and approval, sits squarely on him. Beyond logistics, there is emotional tension. Johnny has to balance Chloe's frustration, her panic over costs, and Michelle's subtle judgment. He cannot simply solve the problems with money. There is none to fall back on, and he must navigate the emotional undercurrents at the same time. It is an intense test of character, endurance, and adaptability. Every interaction is a chance to prove that he is capable of not just loving Chloe, but also leading a shared life under circumstances that are far from the luxury they left behind. And yet, the biggest question remains unanswered. Is this sustainable? Can the island life, with its higher costs, smaller comforts, and daily adjustments, support Chloe and Johnny's relationship long-term? Can Johnny maintain pride and independence while ensuring Chloe adapts? Or will cracks appear when the honeymoon phase fades completely? That uncertainty hovers over him, invisible but felt, shaping every decision he makes. The story is far from over, and every step he takes is a test, not just of his skill as a partner, but of his capacity to survive the realities of a life built on love, ambition, and the stark lessons of independence. The future for Chloe and Johnny on Aruba is not just a question of romance, it's a high-stakes balancing act between love, independence, and reality. The 89-degree shower, which seemed like a small, quirky challenge earlier, has become almost symbolic. It represents discomfort, adaptation, and the threshold of endurance. Can Chloe handle life on her own terms without relying on her mother's money? Can Johnny carry the weight of leading a household that is at once foreign, expensive, and emotionally charged? Every choice they make now sets the stage for very different outcomes. One path is the return home scenario. Chloe could decide that the lifestyle, the cost, the constant tension, and the push for independence are too much. The novelty has worn off, and without a solid income or plan, going back to Massachusetts, to the comforts she knows and the financial support she relied on, might feel like the only option. In that case, the love story would shift. Would Johnny follow, or would the distance create an emotional rift too large to bridge? Returning home could feel like safety, but it would come with regret and the haunting question, did they give the island dream a fair chance? Another path is the stay and struggle scenario. Chloe and Johnny could dig in, adjust to the constraints, and confront the practical realities head-on. Budgeting, negotiating island prices, learning to prioritize, and adapting daily habits all become essential. This path is messy. It involves friction, frustration, and small failures. But it also offers growth. Every cold shower, every overpriced car, every unexpected expense is a lesson in resilience. Here, love is tested not just in emotion, but in endurance and cooperation. If they can survive the daily grind of reality, their bond could emerge stronger, but only if both are willing to learn and compromise. Relationship strain is perhaps the most unpredictable path. High emotions, financial stress, and constant negotiation can magnify insecurities and irritation. Chloe may feel unsupported, Johnny may feel underappreciated, and Michelle's distance or occasional intervention adds a layer of external pressure. Miscommunication could escalate small frustrations into major arguments. Romantic tension could unravel under the stress of practical life. This is the scenario where viewers feel the stakes the highest because love alone cannot fix structural and financial issues. The 89-degree shower becomes the metaphorical thread tying all these possibilities together. It is discomfort that cannot be ignored. It challenges Chloe to adapt, teaches Johnny to lead, and reminds both that paradise comes with condition. It is not punishment. It is a mirror for their readiness, a test disguised as a daily necessity. How they respond to the mundane, the uncomfortable, and the expensive foreshadows which path they are likely to take. As the next episodes approach, anticipation builds. Will Chloe rise to the challenge, transforming discomfort into growth? Or will the fantasy collide with reality and force retreat? Will Johnny assert leadership and maintain stability? Or will strain fracture the relationship? Every choice, every reaction, every argument matters. The island dream is no longer just a vacation. It's a trial, and the future of Chloe and Johnny's story hangs in the balance, leaving viewers questioning which path will unfold and what sacrifices will be made along the way. Everything comes full circle in this episode, and the tension we've been following since the airport hug finally lands in perspective. That moment when Michelle pulled Johnny close, subtly asserting presence and influence, now resonates differently. Back then, it seemed like a warm reunion. A simple greeting, but with the $20,000 accounting behind them, it's clear that hug was layered with stakes, approval, observation, and a subtle reminder that comfort and indulgence aren't guaranteed. The warmth was genuine, but it was also a test, and both Chloe and Johnny are feeling the weight of it now. Revisiting the $20,000 shock, the sheer magnitude of those transfers can't be overstated. It's not just money, it's the representation of past dependence meeting present consequences. Chloe's denial, her protestations over which payments counted, highlighted a behavior many viewers recognize: the tension between entitlement and gratitude, independence and reliance. Michelle wasn't harsh for the sake of drama. She was setting boundaries. Chloe, for the first time, confronted the reality that love and adventure do not automatically fund lifestyle. That realization is painful, but it also plants the seed for maturity, whether she acts on it immediately or gradually. The novelty factor, that brief honeymoon period where island life feels exciting, colorful, and effortless, is also revisited. Michelle predicted that it would wear off, and the episode confirms that early warning. Chloe's initial excitement is giving way to stress, friction, and hard decisions. Luxury in Massachusetts does not translate to Aruba's practical, expensive, and sometimes inconvenient reality. The cold shower, the tight bedroom, the overinflated car prices, they're small details, but they compound into a larger lesson. Paradise is not automatic, and adaptation is essential. Watching Chloe negotiate this transition under pressure provides the emotional core of the episode. Johnny's role in all of this is also clarified. His desire to prove himself, to manage both Chloe's expectations and Michelle's scrutiny, shows the tension between pride and responsibility. He is not perfect, but he is actively navigating a complex, emotional, and practical terrain. Leadership in a relationship, particularly one relocated to a foreign environment with financial constraints, is messy and fraught with trial. Johnny's struggles humanize him, reminding viewers that responsibility is a skill learned through experience rather than assumed automatically. The balanced conclusion is simple. There are no winners and losers here, only growth and lessons. Chloe is challenged, Johnny is tested, and Michelle's tough love forces accountability. The story doesn't resolve neatly, but that's precisely what keeps it compelling. Independence, responsibility, adaptation, and love are all being negotiated in real time, and each decision echoes through the dynamics of the household. As this chapter closes, the narrative subtly hands off to the next story, teasing tension in another 90-day fiancé couple where financial control and family involvement threaten to destabilize romance. The themes explored here, dependence versus independence, entitlement versus accountability, love versus lifestyle, will resonate there too. Viewers are left with curiosity. How will this next couple navigate parental oversight, money, and relationship strain? That question lingers, an irresistible hook drawing the audience forward, ensuring the story continues beyond Aruba, beyond Chloe and Johnny, into the next dramatic, emotionally charged installment.